Hello all, this is JC3 from Is This Real? Do you want to start your own podcast? Then look no further than Buzzsprout.com. We here at Green Hour Media use Buzzsprout, and we love the team at Buzzsprout. They are all about helping you succeed. Buzzsprout gets your show listed in every major podcast platform. Follow the link in our show notes to let Buzzsprout know that we sent you. It gets you a $20 paid Amazon gift card if you sign up with a paid plan and helps support our show. Join us and over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout.com to get your message out to the world.
Live from the Keith Vincent Kiola Studios, Green Arrow Media proudly presents Is This Real? This week's topic, COVID, the origins of COVID and the conspiracies that involve it. And your host, JC3.
Welcome everyone to another fantastic episode of Is This Real?
Is this real?
Thank you, Mr. West, for that intro. Now, Mr. West, he's here in the booth tonight.
I am here. And
he did our intro tonight because we, unfortunately, do not have Pops in the booth with us tonight. Big Joe is not here. Big Joe is kind of sick. Not COVID-related, which would actually be irony if he was, but thank God he doesn't have COVID. Is that bad?
Kind of.
Oh, wait. Whatever.
Oh God.
Thank you, Eric. So tonight's episode, as Eric said, or Mr. West said in the beginning of the episode,
That's me.
He said COVID, the origins of COVID, and the conspiracy theories surrounding COVID-19. Or what do they call it?
COVID-19.
Isn't there another word name?
It's not podcast appropriate.
Or are you
I'm not talking about
variations and stuff?
Yeah, whatever. But I will get to the
that way.
introduces.
Okay.
Introduces the introductions tonight.
No,
So as you heard, we got Mr. West. Say hello to everyone, Mr. West.
Konbawa.
We got Big RoadBlock. RoadBlock, say hello.
Hey, yo, what's going on, everybody?
Nelson, our cousincito's in the building tonight. What's up, Nelson?
Hey, what's up, everyone?
And, I'm JC3, as he said at the beginning. Hello.
Why did you introduce yourself so depressingly
Because I can introduce myself, because nobody does introduce me.
He sucked himself a little too hard earlier.
The intro literally says, here's your host, JC3.
Shut up. Let's get to the episode. So, COVID-19, gentlemen. What do we got? So, the origins of COVID-19. So, obviously, we all lived through it. That's fucked up to say. Sorry, I did not mean to say it that way.
I remember the timeline of when this shit happened, bro. Like this shit.
I have the whole timeline right here, all the way up till early 2021. But I'm not going to read all that.
Nah, yeah. I mean, I remember like when it first was going down.
When exactly? Because it's funny that we're doing it.
So from whatever before I logged off of social media because of like this shit just gets mentally too draining for people.
A player like you,
Hey. Anyways, I am happily tied down. Anyways, so when I remember that this thing was starting to break out, or I caught whiff of it, it was around I think the second to third week of November 2019.
Wow, then you caught it before anybody else did.
Yeah.
Eric, Mr. West always ahead of the game. That's what we
like the Joker, just ahead of the curve. Y'all just mad because I'd be ahead of it. But
okay, go on.
So when I remember this thing breaking out or starting to go down, it was November 2019. I remember seeing on Twitter that some people were kind of like showing like documents. It was all like in Mandarin, so it was like I couldn't read or understand anything whatsoever as to what was going on. And then I remember that same doctor, was it a doctor? I think he was a doctor or a journalist that was reporting that something went on. He was the first one to go missing, or he just got silenced completely. Like I don't know what.
Going right into fucking.
He completely disappeared.
Yeah, he just completely like disappeared.
He's going right into the conspiracy.
No, I'm telling you this is what I'm seeing happening like before any of this starts breaking out.
Yeah, it's the origin.
So
he's right.
So once that started happening, I think like 2 or 3 more Chinese doctors started telling people like, "Yo, this isn't a normal virus that's happening, or a normal respiratory virus that's happening right now." And those same thing, those doctors disappeared, got silenced. Poof. This is still, so now we're talking December 2019. So then that's when the virus starts breaking out in Wuhan, and you get the conspiracy of people say already that it's leaked out of a lab. So that was off rip.
Oh, it was leaked out of a lab.
So that it was all leaked out of a lab.
Bat, someone ate a bat.
The stories at that point weren't even starting to add up, and this was before it even started like breaking out into throughout the entire of China. So I think once it started breaking, I think from what I remember, once it broke out in Wuhan, then the Chinese went into lockdown, and then that's when it started like catching. It started slowly spreading throughout the world. I think I remember it started hitting the U.S. around January, 2nd week of January, or 3rd week is like when we got the first case in New York or some shit like that.
Mm-hmm. I remember mostly towards the end of January, probably beginning of February.
Well, how about we go around? So what was your first remember of COVID, Cito?
Yeah, right. and then not to elaborate, but then after that it was February, March, lockdown, and then boom, now here we are. So yes, Cito, sorry, I just had to
boom, here we are.
I just had to end what I remember.
Yeah, lay it out.
All right, so during this time, I was in high school. This is actually, I started catching wind after break, once it started really spreading out more towards the UK and the United States. February, it was just news as, continuing going up. But it always stuck with me because I went to spring break second week.
Ooh, spring break.
Second week of March was my spring break. The week after, they told us, just to be safe, we're going to have a small little lockdown, just to be safe. Never went back to school since.
Yeah. Oh, okay, to clarify, he means he never physically went back to school.
No.
He still had
we got a motherfucker
online.
who did not graduate high school in the booth.
No.
I graduated high school. I'm in college. I graduated. But no, I never went back to physical school since.
Yeah, everything's been online since, right, for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally, junior year. That was the end of my junior year.
So you didn't have any, like, wind of it before, like, anything was going down like crazy?
It's just more of the time where...
You didn't give a fuck.
It was not really I didn't care. It was more because, like, this December and all that is around midterms.
Okay.
In high school. So I was more focused on studying and all that, trying to pass, these
trying to
exams.
pass high school and shit.
Yeah, trying to pass high school, like, studying and all that.
We all know how difficult that is.
Yes. We struggled.
We
all
lived and
struggled. Except for RoadBlock. He's the nerd.
I didn't struggle either.
Okay,
he's
nerd.
the nerd.
Okay, nerd. I love y'all too.
Point being, I wasn't really paying attention until it really started becoming, started coming over more. But yeah, then, after lockdown, lockdown started and bam, we're here today.
RoadBlock?
Man. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't. I don't know. I'm kind of out of it, but I'm trying to remember everything.
Wake the fuck up.
You want
Not
a
like
shot?
that. No,
he's recovering. Stop it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, first of all. Secondly, no, I just had a really weird day. I even took a nap, stuff like that. Sorry, I'm trying to get focused there.
I forgot you're old.
Oh, my God.
So let's...
Anyway, from what I remember, as of late 2019, I saw one or two little things on the news here and there of meetings, I believe, at the time, of warnings about different, cases that could have been happening. Apparently there was things about someone was warning somebody or whatever the case is. I think at the time that there was something going on. I think it was like Dr. Fauci, was it, if I'm correct?
Yeah, that dickhead.
Okay. Anyway.
Not wrong.
He was mentioned something going on. I can't remember the specifics, but I know there was something happening. For me, I guess because I'm old, I heard more about it because it was slowly starting to affect my job. which my job deals with car parts, and we ship things out and we also receive things in. We get certain materials from across the world. Basically, we get stuff. We have sister plants across the globe. So some of that stuff was being delayed and things like that. So I did hear a good amount, but as far as like the actual specifics of this, I had no real actual concrete knowledge of it until we were getting all the details in like January, February, and then eventually March, because that's when everyone basically knew about it, and then the lockdown happened. So at least for me, that's basically what I remember and how they went.
Joseph?
Well, for me, I'll be honest, I'm not like you, Eric, because what I call you, Mr. West, you are the resident Alex Jones in our booth. Because you're ahead of everybody else, and everybody's catching up with you. We're just looking at you like you're fucking crazy.
Sometimes.
And then you're sitting
then you're like,
I'm right, though.
You know what doesn't help me, though, is my wording and the fact that I be high on top of this,
Well,
too.
it's the same thing with Alex Jones. Alex Jones sits there and screams and says 1776 will commence again. People are going to not take him seriously,
Yeah.
and then turn around and say the water's turning the frogs gay. Come on, Alex. Let's ease it down a little bit.
Okay.
But for me, I will be completely honest with you. I did not give a shit about any of this until about the week before St. Patrick's Day of 2019.
You mean 2020?
2020, yes, sorry. And the reason that is because I was focused straight up working. I was working.
He was trying to get that paper.
I was getting that paper. I was
getting that paper.
Because I remember that because at that point when I was working, we had that was coming right off of the holiday season, and we got rid of a lot of people for holiday season, so I was working a lot of hours.
I think I was one of those people.
Yes, you were. And when...
Boy, don't laugh. I was one of those people.
The week before that, you would have... Usually the mall would be somewhat type of busy.
No, a lot of busy.
Well, this is March now. It's the dead season for the mall.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
So, but it was, extra dead. Like, we were pulling, $200, $300 days. And that's...
Damn.
Yeah, that's not...
That's 3-4 hats a day.
It's not like normal to do something like that. And it's funny because I remember the day before St. Patrick's Day. On St. Patrick's Day, the day before we shut down, I was working by myself, and you could hear a pin drop in the mall. There was nobody in the mall, and this is now you have a couple.
Was this right? Didn't lockdown happen during what was it, March 15th or something like that?
Yeah, St. Patrick's Day. Okay, so basically the day before St. Patrick's Day, I worked, and then St. Patrick's Day itself, lockdown happened.
Okay.
And how that came is I was working. Now, this is GSP. GSP is a big mall for anybody who's listening outside of northern Jersey.
Yeah, no, Garden State Mall in New Jersey it's a fairly big mall.
Yeah, it's a
like
lot
3
of
levels or something like that.
Yeah, it has a couple levels to it, thousands and thousands of customers a day. It's a high end mall, and I was working
pretty spacious too.
Yes,
depending on where you're at.
And I was working in that mall, and there was nobody there. I remember texting my manager because I'm like, everyone was basically closed. There was maybe 3 or 4 stores in the mall that were open, and we were one of those. And I'm like, do I sit here and close them? There's nobody here. I was like, do I shut down? And she was like, I don't know. We haven't gotten any
updates or anything.
Updates from corporate. So I'm like, but literally every other store is shut down. And then security came and said we're closing early tonight. We close at 6. And then the next day I was supposed to go in, but they sent everybody home. And that's when lockdown officially began. And that was after, I believe at that point, let's see, let me go down the timeline here because I have the whole timeline right here. So,
should we go into a short break and then get into the timeline?
Yeah, let's do the timeline.
I just want to read one thing, and this is March 15th of 2020. U.S. states begin to shut down to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Schools and stuff like that shut down. So yeah, it was that day
that everything went into lockdown. And I was supposed to go into work at 1:00 that day, but they shut the mall down at 12 and sent everybody home. I'm like, okay, this is serious. But we will go to a short little break.
Oh,
Eric, look. We are by the water finally. Ah, water. You know what you could put water in?
You know what water goes great in?
What?
My Is This Real coffee mug that you can get on www.greenarrowmedia.org. I'm not gonna drink that.
And welcome back from break. So, what we want to do now is something we haven't done very well on this show. We try our best, but it doesn't really come out that it comes out nice. I'll just shut up. So we're going to run down a timeline from basically the beginning of when we started hearing about COVID to about mid. I'm going to say mid.
Not when I started hearing about it.
Okay, out of nowhere. Mid, I guess, lockdown, Joshua?
Yeah, about hopefully up to about June, depending on how we do it.
Hopefully. So I'll start it off, and we're gonna pinpoint important dates. We're not gonna go through the entire thing because we're reading down this list. Oh my God, people, there is so much shit.
Yeah.
So important dates. I'll start it off. Josh is gonna read a couple after me, and then the other two are figuring out what the hell they want to do. So.
Fuck you.
Late 2019, which is December, and that would be late 2019. So December 12th, 2019, a cluster of patients in Wuhan, Hubei Province, China, began to experience shortness of breath and fever. And then on December 31st, 2019, the World Health Organization China country office, so basically the WHO, is informed of a number of cases of pneumonia, an unknown cause detected in Wuhan, Hubei province. All cases connected to the Hunan seafood wholesale market in Wuhan. Seafood wholesale market. Never buy seafood wholesale. That's how you get COVID.
Just keep going.
So, January 5th, skipping ahead, Chinese public health officials share the genetic sequence of the unknown pneumonia virus, the Wuhan Hu-1, through an online database. January 7th, Chinese authorities identify and isolate a novel coronavirus as the causative agent of the outbreak. That same day, the CDC establishes a 2019 NCOV incident management structure to guide the response. It follows previous established MERS COVID preparedness plans for developing tests and managing cases. The 13th, the 13th, the Thailand Ministry of Public Health confirms the first imported case of lab-confirmed novel coronavirus from China. The 15th, the Japanese Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare reports an imported case of laboratory-confirmed novel coronavirus. The January 17th, the CDC begins screening passengers on direct and connecting flights from Wuhan, China, at San Francisco, California, New York City, and Los Angeles, and plans to expand screening to other major airports. The January 22nd, where is it? The World Health Organization confirms human-to-human spread of the novel coronavirus. January 27th, the United States Food and Drug Administration announces that it will take critical actions to advance development of novel coronavirus medical countermeasures with interagency partners, including the CDC. And finally, in January 29th, the White House the White House Corona Task Force is established with the U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar as the head of the task force. Joshua?
All right, next up, we got February 8th. One of the first CDC test kits arrive at a public health laboratory in East Manhattan, New York City, New York. The laboratory reports that the test produces untrustworthy results. All right, moving along to February 11th, 2020, the World Health Organization announces the official name for the disease that is causing the 2019 novel coronavirus outbreak as COVID-19. The new name of this disease is an abbreviation version of the coronavirus disease 2019. Skip down to the 23rd. Italy becomes a global COVID-19 hotspot. The Italian government issues Decree Law Number 6 of February 23rd, 2020, containing urgent measures to contain and manage the epidemiological emergency caused by COVID-19, effectively locking down the country. All right, moving along, we're going to skip down to, I believe it is a March 11th, yes. The World Health Organization declares COVID-19 a pandemic. So this is the first day where it's actually announced, March 11th. Going down to the 13th, American President Donald J. Trump declares a nationwide emergency. Moving along to the 14th, CDC issues a no-sail order to all cruise ships. The order calls for all cruise ships in waters that the U.S. has jurisdiction over to cease activity. Moving along, the 15th, U.S. states begin to shut down to prevent the spread of COVID-19. New York City public school system, the largest school system in the U.S., with 1.1 million students, shuts down, while Ohio calls for restaurants and bars to close. Wow. March 17th. First human trial of a vaccine to protect against pandemic COVID-19 begins in the U.S. at Kaiser Permanente, hopefully I said that right, research facility in Seattle, Washington. Moderna Therapeutics is the biotech company behind the vaccine. We're going to skip over to the 26th. That is the U.S. Senate passes the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security, the CARES Act, providing $2 trillion in aid to hospitals, small businesses, and state and local governments, while including an elimination of the Medicare sequester from May to December 31st, 2020. Now, March 28th is important. There's actually 3 events going on. We got the White House extends social distancing measures until the end of April 2020. We also have the U.S. Food and Drug Administration issues an emergency use authorization, or EUA, to allow hydroxychloroquine sulfate and chloroquine phosphate products donated to the Strategic National Stockpile to be distributed and used for certain hospitalized patients with COVID-19. And then lastly, for March 28th, we have the CDC distributes a health alert network, HAN, warning against using chloroquine phosphate without the recommendation of a doctor or pharmacy after one person is seriously ill and another dies from ingesting non-pharmaceutical chloroquine phosphate, a chemical for aquarium use that is commercially available for purchase at the stores or online to prevent COVID-19. That's a lot going on, folks. So I guess shoot it back over to you, Joe. Going to take a break?
Yeah, we will be back. We will take a break. It sounds very dreading, and there's a lot going on. There was a lot going on in 2020. Just to let you know, we're here as we continue to talk about this to hopefully lighten your day up and not just retread about 2020, because I know 2020 was a horrible year for everyone. So we're here to try and lighten your day. Just keep it with us, all right? So we'll be right back. We're going to go right to break real quick, all right, guys?
Hi, this is Anthony from Multimedia Mafia. If you love what we do and you want to know more about us, head on over to greenarrowmedia.org. On there, you're going to find links to both Multimedia Mafia show and our sister show, Is This Real?, which is all about conspiracies and aliens and all sorts of wonderful stuff like that. If you want to support us, head on over to our merch page where you can buy a hat or a mug. We have lots of different designs and cool colors. If you want to meet us, we got pictures up there. We have a little biography, and you can even stream the show right through the website. And hey, don't forget to check out our YouTube link where you can check out all the filming that we do right on our YouTube page. Check us out, greenarrowmedia.org.
And welcome back from our break. So, we're going to continue going down the COVID timeline up until the end of was it quarantine? I believe they called it quarantine.
Yeah.
Lockdown,
quarantine, same.
staying in your home, eating popcorn alone, watching reruns of TV shows that you'll never ever stop watching ever in your life again.
Chronically masturbating and crying.
Whoa.
Okay.
Okay, I was going to say just stare off into madness of your ceiling, but all right, we got that.
Do you understand why we started a podcast in the middle of quarantine? That's exactly the reason why.
Because we went batshit crazy for a while. Anyway.
Makes sense.
So, Joshua and I are going to pass it off to our other people in the booth. Please serenade us with timelines.
The serenation begins. So, I'm just going to start off on April 6th, 2020. Hundreds of doctors and civil rights groups urged CDC and U.S. government to release race and ethnicity data on COVID-19 cases in order to ensure the proper response in black communities. That's April 6th. On the 7th, we have a report from the Chicago Tribune notes that 68% of the COVID-related 19 deaths in Chicago occur among the city's African-American community, illuminating racial disparities of the pandemic in the U.S. And then we have April 8th, U.S. Health and Human Services announced first contract for ventilator production goes to General Motors under the Defense Production Act.
All right. Now, jumping over to April 10th, the U.S. surpasses Italy as the global leader for reported deaths due to COVID-19. Okay. On April 13th, most U.S. states report widespread cases of COVID-19. And then jumping down, all the way down to the 24th, Georgia, Alaska, Oklahoma begin to partially reopen their states despite concerns from health experts saying it was too early to reopen.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hey, Ryan. Hi, this is Sarah Palin.
Ryan, Donald Trump Jr.
Harsh to win seal. Hey, everybody, I want y'all to check out a fellow Marines podcast.
My name is Ted Nugent, and I got a call from my buddy Ryan F. Samuels, and he wants me to tell you that he's a working hard, playing all-American son of a who is celebrating God, family, country.
Welcome to the Ryan Samuels Show, one of the top political podcasts in the United States, where we have a healthy distrust for government and mainstream media. The Ryan Samuels Show is a raw, unfiltered look at American politics.
So then we also start off with we also have April 30th, where President Trump launches Operation Warp Speed, an initiative to produce a vaccine for the coronavirus as quickly as possible, with CDC as an integral member. I tried to read that right. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you got it right.
All right. Okay.
You did good.
I did good. So that's April. Now we're going to go into May 1st, where, the U.S. Food, so the FDA issues an emergency use authorization for investigational antiviral drug, remdesivir, for the treatment of suspected or laboratory confirmed COVID-19 in adults or children hospitalized with severe disease. You're going to have to take it because that was a mouthful for me.
Don't worry, I got you. All right. Jumping down. May 9th. U.S. unemployment rate at 14.7%, the worst rate since the Great Depression.
Woo!
I will chime in real quick. That word is remdesivir.
Remdesivir. It sounds...
From May 1st.
Okay.
I know it's a drug.
Okay.
Continuing with the May 9th, with 20.5 million people out of work, hospitality, leisure, and healthcare industries taking the greatest hit, is affecting low-income and minority workers the most. Then all the way down
to May 28th.
May 28th, United States, the COVID-19 death toll surpasses 100,000.
Damn.
Yeah.
Then jumping into June 8th, we have that the World Bank states that COVID-19 will plunge the global economy into the worst recession since World War II.
That's not good.
That's no woo to that. No woo to that one. No woo to that one. Too much.
Too much.
That was June 8th. Then we have the 25th, where the CDC expands a list of people at risk for severe COVID-19 illness by removing the specific age threshold from the older adult classification, noting that the risk increases with age. CDC also includes people with chronic kidney disease, COPD, obesity.
Shut up.
I'm over here. No, it's not even because of you. I was trying to struggle with the fuck this word is.
Immunocomprised?
Yes, immunocomprised from solid organ transplant, serious heart condition, sickle cell disease, and type 2 diabetes are also at increased risk of severe COVID-19 illness. Wow, that is another mouthful. You're going to have to take it again.
But on the bright side, July 23rd, CDC releases new science-based resources and tools for school ministers, teachers, parents, guardians, and caregivers for a safe school reopening. And I know how that feels.
And then just to end it off, because after that we're gonna start getting into the reopenings and stuff. So just to end it with August 19th, after CDC studies show that American Indians and Alaskan Natives are among the racial and ethnic minority group at higher risk for severe COVID-19 outcomes, CDC provides more than $20 million in COVID-19 funding to Indian country.
200 million.
200,
And at that point, we're going to take another short little break. We will be right back, guys, and this time we won't be reading from anything. It's all going to be off the cuff.
Hey, New Jersey and Pennsylvania. If you need a professional photographer, then we here at Green Arrow Media recommend Captured Moments by Danielle. Professional headshots, school pictures, family, holiday vacations, you name it, she can shoot it. She even does engagement photos as well as boudoir shots for both women and couples. So if you're located in New Jersey or Pennsylvania and you're looking for a professional photographer, remember to contact Capture Moments by Danielle at www.capturedmomentsbydanielle.com.
And we are back from break. Now, it wouldn't be an Is This Real episode if we weren't talking about conspiracy theories or something that we have to question. Now, everyone knows how, and we've said it in the past episodes, and you guys have all been here. You can back me up. Our resident Big Joe.
Sito wasn't here.
But he's heard it. He's our number one fan.
You're right.
Yeah.
Literally, he's gone back and listened to almost every single episode.
Yeah.
Dad, it's everyone knows me to Dad, everyone else is Big Joe, has a certain opinion about the coronavirus, COVID-19, and how, and trust me, you guys haven't seen it, but my parents have gone through the fucking ringer back and forth. The reason is because, and to a point my father's right and to a point my father's wrong. My father has this thing where he says, if you listen to doctors that talk about the coronavirus, you have, and I'm just using blank numbers as an expression. There's no real thing.
There's no statistical.
Yeah, as my Uncle Keith would love to say, there's no statistics about it.
Don't quote him on this. He's using examples.
It's just an example. You could have 100 doctors over here saying that masks work, and 100 doctors over here saying that masks don't matter. Who do you listen to? Both saying with science proof about their side of the ball. Who do you listen to? All these doctors all have medical degrees. Who do you put your faith in? And I think that goes into personal choice.
Yeah,
and
I was gonna say that's more of a that has to come down to a person. If it's not a blank rhetorical question that you're asking right now, and if it's a real question that we can answer right now,
yeah, no, I'm just blanking. The thing.
My response would be it's a personal preference because I've worked in conditions where having a mask does more harm to me than actual good in terms of like work production wise. Like I'm like more slowed down. Like I get overheated more quickly and stuff like that. That's just in my personal preference. I'm also a personal believer that in order to build immunity to some things, you have to be exposed to certain things. Now, granted, that mentality can be very dangerous because if I was a person that wasn't healthy enough to keep up with COVID, my mentality would kill me, and I'm very well aware of that. But again, it's just a personal preference at that point.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hello, nerds. Come listen to the History Nerds United podcast, and let's make history fun again. We interview today's best authors, whether they are established Pulitzer Prize winners or someone debuting their first book. Let us show you that history is not a boring class you took in high school, but a place where the best stories come from. And we don't just cover history. We also love to chat about true crime, biographies, memoirs, and so much more. So head on over to History Nerds United, and let us introduce you to your new favorite book and learn the story behind the story.
History Nerds United.
I agree with you, and that's the thing, and that's where I think it causes hysteria. It causes people like the common Joe to sit there and I'm not common. Thank you very much. I'm extraordinary. All right, whatever.
Way to stroke your own ego there, buddy.
Yeah, my arm hurts right now. You know,
your mouth too.
No. Anyway, moving on.
But it causes the common folk to sit there and argue with each other. All right, you have to do this because this doctor said. Well, the other person was like, well, this doctor said this too. You know. That's what I'm saying. It causes conspiracy. It causes people to sit there and go, well, if this was real, then what the government is telling us about COVID-19 is falsified. Because if you guys remember, the government pushed social distancing. They pushed masks. They pushed it all. And they're still to a point pushing masks. And, they were all – and it became a political thing because at this point our president was still Donald Trump.
In 2020, yes.
And he was not a big mask believer. Yeah. He didn't like wearing masks. He didn't push for mask mandates to where you have Republicans who did not push for any mask mandates. Democrats pushed really hard for mask mandates.
But then right there is where like you led into it. It became more of a political thing at that point.
And I think, but that's where you led to conspiracy theories of how, what is the true nature of what COVID-19 is. And the origin of it, there's even a conspiracy theory about that. I've heard a conspiracy theory that it was passed between the Wuhan lab and a lab in, I believe it was West Virginia. Yes. And it was shipped back and forth.
Yes.
I heard that all the way at the beginning. I haven't heard a lot of truth to that now.
Never heard of the West Virginia part? I heard about the Wuhan lab.
So the conspiracy behind that one goes is that it was a professor from West Virginia University. Was it West Virginia University?
I believe so, yes.
So in West Virginia, one university, it may have been that same name. Don't quote me on that. Yeah. But allegedly goes is that there was a professor that was traveling in between West Virginia and China.
Okay.
With this virus.
Yes.
And because
they were studying it.
Because they were studying it, and because certain universities are paid by are funded by the government, CIA and stuff like that as fronts, that's really fucking true.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely is.
So that's why he got the okay to pretty much like, okay, he's allowed to smuggle this because it's official government business. Mm-hmm. He got his little badge or whatever. We ain't gonna question it. Whatever. Supposedly is that like that. Whatever was in that package got released.
Yes.
In Wuhan.
In Wuhan,
which is what led to the outbreak of how all this was just lab made and shit like that. And that's where I personally believe, because again, I caught whiff of this since November, since before everything already started going down. So in my head, I'm already 100% believing and can with my own eyes saw the proof of that this thing came from a lab. I saw it.
And then there was a lot of conspiracy that it came from a bat. Someone ate a bat.
And then that's where I saw China starting to like cover up. They were literally deleting documents, bro. Like you could see one thing the next. You see one thing one day, the next. Not even the next day. Hours later, poof, gone. Oops, does not exist. Not even, bro. Like nothing.
Well, there was a lot. There was actually a lot to that I saw even on myself, like flying through different social medias and like the internet, stuff like that. Like there was one person who was saying exactly what you're saying, West, and that apparently there was actually proof, and then later they couldn't find the proof that lab in Wuhan had really
I remember
really relaxed practices of their own quarantining the viruses and stuff like that. Like the facility that they were using to study this was the complete opposite of strict when it comes to health regulations and stuff like that. It was dirty. It was messed up. They didn't have up-to-date equipment, stuff like that. So there was a lot even adding to that. Like it's not just conspiracy theories. There was proof at one time. I have no idea if you can still find that proof,
no,
but
you
there
can't.
Probably is
you can't.
videos of people talking about it if they're still out there.
Not the actual documents. You can't,
no, not the actual documents.
You can't find the documents.
Well,
I tried my very best to search for those same transcripts.
It's not even about that anymore, too. If you remember correctly, back, this had to be before December of last year. I think it was more October and November. There was a documentary.
And wait, 2019?
2020.
2020.
There was a documentary that I sent to you. And I remember it because
the woman that worked with Fauci.
The woman that worked with Fauci, blowing the lid on
they had the patent.
COVID.
They had the patent. They've been studying this for years.
About okay, so there's a conspiracy theory about Fauci. Allegedly, of course. Again, that's what a conspiracy theory is. It's all allegedly.
Because we can't. Trust me. If me and you can prove this, and we had all the physical proof, trust me, they would never allow us to speak and get this out to like everybody to hear about this.
If we had mass media.
So again, for the most part, this is a conspiracy.
Yeah. So apparently, allegedly, Fauci has had for a while a patent on the vaccine to this SARS COVID.
To the SARS 12.
Yeah. To whatever this COVID was, SARS, MERS, whatever the fuck.
Well, I also heard something that was contradictory to that. It was not so much. Not that I'm protecting or defending anybody. Just something I heard and saw.
No, of course.
That it was kind of like a vaccine for that, but it was because of the fact that there was previous strains of this so-called COVID SARS or whatever. There was other strains prior that were kind of like the flu.
Yeah,
like
that's
lesser versions.
That's what MERS is. You have MERS, SARS. There's been many forms of MERS and SARS over the years. In fact,
I think SARS 1 originally came from China as well too, but that one it was like it wasn't
killing people.
It wasn't killing people.
No.
It was
just made you.
It was
sick.
just like the flu.
Yeah.
And then it eventually, over time, it evolved like all things did, and it started getting to the point where it could be lethal. So that's why they were already, I guess, preparing.
Well, there was okay. So this
or
video,
something like that.
This video that we watched, and I'll set up the story. So Dad was watching the video, and I watched it with him. So this doctor who worked with Fauci blew the lid, saying that he had a patent on this vaccine, waiting for this because again, the lab that
and not to cut you off, Joey. I remember she mentioned that when she's talking about this, we're talking like the year maybe like what.
It was before. It was Obama. It was 2019.
It was Obama administration though.
Are you sure?
When she said that they were working on shit like this, wasn't it Obama administration?
The documentary came out in 2019.
It did come out in 19, but she was before. But I think she
she was working with him years, and they trampled all over this poor woman. They literally all over the internet. She's this. She's that. They called her all the names in the book.
Everything under the sun.
And basically what she was saying is that...
And try to disprove her.
There's a long conspiracy theory of Fauci, and it goes all the way up until AIDS. And because Fauci in the 80s, there's a lot of shit, and you guys can look it up, that Fauci did with AIDS and the AIDS pandemic, that he had the patent for, testing of the AIDS and all that stuff. He went as far back as, 70s, 80s. You had something to say?
Well, okay, so I can understand that. I'm not, like Josh said, I'm not defending it, but overall, like Josh said earlier, like, these diseases do go back far enough that it's easy to say you can patent a cure for something and before you can even develop the cure.
Well, I agree with you.
Mm-hmm. So if something's already happening, or if because you can predict when outbreaks happen by the way they spread, by how fast they spread, and by how fast they can evolve, especially when it comes to viruses. Viruses are an everlasting evolution that literally, like we said earlier, COVID is just one variation of the same thing. Like, it could be going back. I think if you can trace it back correctly, the first ever, case could be done back into, early 1900s, even late 1800s. So you can kind of predict evolution of a virus, how fast it can spread, how it spreads.
That's not... Okay, you're right, and I completely agree with you. But that's not the debate here. The debate is if it was enhanced man-made.
I personally believe. Well, you're asking Cito, but from the vague information that I remember, there was documented proof that this thing was spliced with different variants of diseases. So that this thing wasn't something that can be found in nature.
Exactly.
Or at least for this to be able to be found in nature, it was going to take at least hundreds, if maybe not thousands of years for it to get to that point.
Because I remember them saying that in the video too. And
it was spliced with SARS.
That's the thing.
Was it SARS?
I
AIDS?
have no problem with evolution of viruses. That's nature.
Yeah.
I think it comes to the point of whether it's not man-made, but human advanced. And I think that's where the problem comes. And then you sit there and you have nobody to take responsibility for it. And I think that's where the problem is right now with the whole China and the U.S. is still going back and forth. China doesn't want to take any responsibility of it. U.S. is blaming China. It goes back and forth of who's taking responsibility of what the fuck happened.
Honestly, at that point, I would just say, you can't even sit here and say it was your fault because you didn't take any responsibility, because not even take responsibility or didn't take proper action for it. At this point, it happened. Unfortunately, it happened, but it happened, and it happened at I don't want to say a good time, but it happened at a very interesting time because it was also during the time of a political election year. Political election year.
And in history, as has history proved, in most of the cases, in election year, some type of outbreak has happened. At least. And then we can all agree on, we are all not on different sides of the page here as far as COVID, but we all have our levels of intensity of which we believe in conspiracy theories or not, which we all are fine with.
Yeah, of course, and we're not, and we're never knocking it.
We're not arguing. We're actually discussing human beings, which I love. But the proof is in the pudding. We see that almost every election year there's some type of outbreak. Yeah, this one seemed to stick.
It was COVID for this one. The last election was 2016? The one before that? That was
it was 2016.
2016 was Zika. The one before that was...
There was an Ebola at one point.
2012,
I think during an election.
2012...
Ebola wasn't?
It wasn't during an election year.
There was an outbreak, but I don't think it was.
It was just popped out of nowhere.
I think Ebola was 2012. Ebola was 2012, and then 2008 was swine flu.
Swine flu was 2008.
I remember.
Again, we're not saying there's a connection to it. It's just a
But if we were going to connect it, the Bilderberg meeting episode, I'm just saying, at 2019, they were talking about, population control or something?
And then 2020, at the end of 2020.
Before we go on this deep rabbit hole that takes us to whatever...
I love how you turned around and said you're the one who said that. I love it.
But before we go down the rabbit hole that takes us to Alice in Wonderland and
The Matrix.
Yeah, whatever. Let's get back into it, because God.
Okay, there's one thing I would like to talk about, and I think I don't believe you guys talked about it in the timeline.
No.
Now, in
I know what you're going
2020, we did have a sort of, and not as much in 2021, but there was protests happening, political... Racial tensions were high.
Racial tensions were very high
and
last year.
There was a debate
country.
with these protests to turn around and say, with the protests and the protests on the streets, there was no proof that within any of these protests, and you're talking about thousands and thousands of people protesting in June alone, because you had two different cases. You had the George Floyd case starting to really heat up, and then the Breonna Taylor case.
Yeah.
We're not talking about any of those. We're not talking about any type of racial thing. We're just talking about the COVID statistics behind it. I just want to tell that to anybody listening. We're not talking about anything to do with both those...
Most unfortunate passings.
Unfortunate passings. May they both rest in peace. But these...
This was something that was going on, though, that they were trying to say that, like, oh, it was... in a way, I see where you're trying to go with this, where media was trying to portray it, where, like, if you were attending these protests, you have a better chance of getting COVID. That's how they were painting that picture, if I remember.
Some were. Okay,
yeah,
so it goes into, and then again, it goes into Democrat, Republican.
Yes.
That's if you turn on Fox News, they were wondering, well, if you attend these protests, why there's no COVID being passed around, nobody's doing this, nobody's doing that, and there was no outburst of COVID at any one of these events.
At the time, no.
At the time, and even later, there was no.
There wasn't anything
major, major
there was no linking of potential outbreaks or spreading
to where
of those protests.
If you look
like the linking of the outbreak, or the
it's
protest.
Like if someone gets confirmed,
boom.
They'll sit there and say, "Yeah, I was at a protest," and they can link to see how many people were there.
And
there
track.
was no actual connections. And that could have been just from the media trying to portray it differently.
Yeah, so you had one side of the spectrum with Fox and more Republican-based news agencies questioning why there's you can't go to church, but you can go to these protests and not catch COVID.
Yeah.
To where CNN and more the Democratic-based news agencies were basically covering. These are the protests for the lives of these people, or the whatever, and they weren't really mentioning anything about COVID-19 or spreading of the COVID-19. They're more of focusing more on the protests and the meaning behind the protests.
Got you.
But again, there is what it says here. It says 3 weeks prior, Black Lives Matter protests broke out across the country due to the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. Experts worried that it would lead to a spike in cases, but researchers released a report saying that it did not, because the protests caused more people to stay home. The protests led to CDC rethinking its pandemic response to include a health equity framework. So, I don't see how it caused more people to stay at home when you had thousands and thousands and thousands of people on the street.
Well, take consideration that some of these protests were getting violent, and so that's actually a deterrent from people getting on the streets. So when people would see a protest during this time, it could either went two ways, violent or peaceful. But even then, if people had everyday lives to do, it stopped them from doing their everyday lives, because that protest would take place on the street, and they couldn't drive through.
And those protests really were huge. So if people saw that it was, city streets long, they're like, shit, I can't go to where I got to go. They turn around and go home. Possibly, I'm just saying that's.
No, I agree with that.
They could always find another way, of course.
I agree with that,
still.
but there was still, to me, if yours, you have to look at the tree effect. If you have this right here, or the domino effect, it's not tree effect, the domino effect. This will cause these things to happen. So if you sit there and if you're telling me that with more and more cases rising.
How did it not spike?
How did it not spike with any of these thousands and thousands of protests that happen across the nation?
Yeah.
And that was it was
kind of
not
funny
even
thing.
it was not even like, okay, it happened in a week. There was, I think, a 2-month period, I think, between June, July, and even in August, there was mass protests, even violent ones. And the violent ones are the worst ones, because in the violent ones, you're not worried about wearing a fucking mask.
Yeah, there's more possibility of
At least
spreading.
a surgical mask.
Yeah.
That's
weirdly
different.
enough,
That's
weirdly
different.
enough, even though I'm not defending violent protests, those were god awful, right? But I did see some of them actually being very resourceful when it comes to like a mask and all that. They were actually wearing the surgical mask.
Well, because it hides their face. That's why.
Well, yeah, of course it hides, but still, point.
But even still, the point of it, not to try and track too far off, is that there was even violent protests, and yet they're going to sit there and tell us that there was no spikes. But you thought there would be spikes because the protests, whether they were violent or non-violent.
And
there's
that-
exposure.
And that was my whole thing where, like, you sit there and tell people that they can't go sit in a fucking church to pray, even spaced out, but you're letting people on the streets to protest. Well, granted, I mean, peacefully protest, which is your obligated right as an American.
Yeah.
You can sit there and protest peacefully. I am all for protesting peacefully. I don't care if it's to get Oscar Mayer wieners back. As long as you're protesting peacefully, I don't give a shit. Once it turns violent, it's a little different story.
Yeah.
But you're not taking away the rights of somebody. And I think with these protests not showing any type of spike or any type of, what do they call it now, back tracing, or I believe it is.
Something to that effect.
It's something to that effect.
Yeah.
It not showing any of that. It throws a little pin in the bubble of COVID. Because if you could sit there, and we experienced in this house alone. Let's see. Let me go down let's take a break first, because we went a little bit long here, but we're going to take a break real quick, and then I'm going to go down the timeline of what my family did and how basically it doesn't make any sense how COVID works. But we'll be right back.
Green Arrow Media has partnered up with StepUpWellness.com. Are you looking for a program to help support a healthy lifestyle? It's never too late for a healthy change, believe me. Today is your lucky day. Check out StepUpWellness.com. It has over 500 different products to choose from, all with your health in mind. They have supplements and vitamins, protein bars and shakes and powders and drinks. Anything that's going to go into your body to make you feel better and live better, StepUpWellness.com has it. If you're in the market for online health, wellness, and fitness products, then look no further. Go to StepUpWellness.com today.
And welcome back. So, before the break, I was going to go into my family timeline with COVID. As you probably all know already by this time, but I think it's a little important to see the both sides of COVID and how it can completely rip apart a family and how it's weird.
And also the randomness, because even with me being around and partial exposure before I decided to get vaccinated for you guys' sake, it's really weird how it happens, but I'll give it back to you.
Yeah. But real quick, Cito did bring up a good point about the early stages of testing, and which was basically the numbers. Cito, real quick, say it.
Yeah, going back to what you were saying with the how the protest with lack of spikes or anything, I just really wanted to say real quick that testing was kind of still flawed during the time of this. So sometimes the numbers wouldn't come back as correct, or sometimes some people would say, oh, they got tested negative for COVID, but they actually might have had COVID. And, there's just a lot of things that tests sometimes picked up during the early times. Testing was issues because I know actually I've heard some personal stories about people like, oh, yeah, I swear I have COVID. And people actually had the symptoms for like a week and a half and were actually like terrible. And they got a test, was negative. I just want to bring that up real quick before we continue on to the next segment.
And it's interesting that you say that, because in this little story I'm about to go into, that actually happened. Just a little tidbit to your point too, though, and this is just a general thing. I don't know if you guys agree with me or not on this one. This is just my take. If it was as flawed and not as accurate, then maybe, just maybe, they shouldn't. If you watched any news agency during this COVID thing, they had an actual tracker on the side of the ticker.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Posting numbers and deaths. If it wasn't as accurate, don't scare people.
I'm not going to say it was a scare tactic. I think it was just a generalization of what they're getting.
I could see that.
Because people do want to know what are the numbers right now, what's going on, right? If they don't give anything, it's going to cause a kind of hysteria amongst the people where people would be confused and not knowing what's going on, and people would want the information. So in this case, I think it's more of a generalization of this is what's going on. This is what we are getting from the test, and not actually any tactics of some kind of way.
Oh, yeah, I think unfortunately it worked bifold, because I think with the more information people got, the more scared people got.
Yeah, it's a double-edged
sword. That's what I was trying to say, not bifold. I don't think that was the right word. Sorry.
No,
I know.
I don't know.
I think Eric knew what I was getting.
I honestly, no.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead, Joe.
My family story with COVID, and this starts at the end of 2020. This will be at the beginning of November. Now, at the beginning of November, me and Dad were just doing the podcast. Yeah. I believe. I don't think Eric or Mr. West or RoadBlock joined just yet. We at the beginning of November, Teresa, our little sister, if you listen to Green Hour podcast, multimedia podcast.
I was going to say real quick, I think we had just started, because you said November. We started back in October.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
So
we had just started, so it wasn't 100% concrete. We were kind of coming in when we could.
Yeah. Beans on the other podcast, she contracted. She didn't feel well for a couple days. And basically, she was just saying she didn't feel herself. It was more of she's not there's no breathing problems. She's just, I'm tired. I'm struggling.
Fatigue.
Yeah,
fatigue.
Just feeling off. Period.
Just feeling off. You know what I mean?
Sluggish fatigue.
Yeah, sluggish. And she was like, it happened. It was 3-4 days in a row. And of course, with all this COVID stuff, you think, and so she got tested. Now, she was working at her job. Nobody at her job, I believe, I could be getting this wrong. We would have to talk to her about it. I believe nobody at her job actually had it, though. So
could have been just a customer or something.
Well, she works. She's a telephone operator type person thing. Telemarketer. There we go. So there's not really a lot of customers that they deal with, and they all stay in their kind of cubicles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of exposure going back and forth between agents and whatnot. So she got it. She tested positive. Put her ass in the room for 2 weeks. Literally 2 weeks. And towards the end of that, now this is, if I have to say, maybe November 13th, 13th-ish.
Mm-hmm.
The weekend, there's a weekend, me, Uncle Bubba, and Uncle Keith, may he rest in peace, and Pop, may he rest in Papa. We were all downstairs in their apartment, and we're watching Notre Dame game. And at the time, I didn't know it, but apparently that Friday morning, Uncle Bubba, he just wasn't feeling well. He woke up with a fever. And again, but when I saw him, he looked fine. Laughing, joking. He was literally just fine. And we were all sitting there watching the Notre Dame game. But he woke up the next day, and he didn't feel well. Now, granted, Uncle Bubba works for the county, and there's not a lot of apparently there's not a lot of mask wearing in the cars. Now, they ride in cars together, and they worked right through the pandemic, I believe it was. So there's not a lot of they didn't they didn't have any mask mandates for the car rides, and you're sitting with somebody for hours on end in a car, something's going to come down.
Yeah.
So, that Monday, they went to go get tested. I believe Bubba tested positive. Uncle Keith tested negative. But again, Uncle Keith, for some reason, I believe got the PCR, which is the up-the-nose test, the longer test, and then he also got a quick test. Quick test came back negative. Bubba's came back positive. Oh, all's well and good. So Bubba, quarantine. Uncle Keith, they turned around. Uncle Keith wasn't feeling, apparently, if I remember correctly, he wasn't feeling bad. Like there was no symptoms, but because of how close uncles were, they both just stayed in quarantine. And Uncle Keith was retired. So it's not like he's going out to work. He's not like doing anything. So he and Uncle Bubba were in quarantine for about a week. During that week, I was in work. I went to work because I felt fine that Monday. Monday, they tested positive. I'm like, me not thinking about it, I'm like, I feel fine. Tuesday comes, I'm starting to feel off. And during this whole thing, literally, all I did was feel off. I didn't feel like I couldn't breathe. I didn't feel weird. I just felt like, oh, okay, there's something wrong. I have a little headache. My throat hurts a little bit. Nothing completely out of the ordinary of, like, I would just attribute it to, it's middle of November, seasonal allergies. Season's changing. It's, it's going to be winter soon. So I was just attributing to that. So during the week, everything's fine. Bubba and Keith are in quarantine. They're doing well. Mom and Dad are upstairs. Teresa's coming out of her quarantine. But because of Teresa being in quarantine, Anthony got a room with Sarah at a hotel. So Anthony's at a house. Amanda's downstairs. She's not coming up to the second floor because of Teresa. So Mom and Dad are fine. They tested. I tested. At that point, well, no, I didn't test just yet. Mom and Dad did. They were fine, both negative. That Sunday. Now, I remember that Sunday well because it's weird. Jets lost, of course.
As usual.
As usual.
Whoa. I was almost surprised there, buddy. You almost had me. I was like, yo, they're lost, bro.
At night,
I'm like, it's just the Jets.
We're at night, me and Teresa are watching something, and I'm noticing something weird about myself. And obviously, everyone knows I eat. I like to eat.
No.
I always have some type of drink in my hand. I'm always doing something like that.
You don't say.
I couldn't smell anything. And I'm like, so I'm trying to smell something. And I'm like, if you ever got that part where you just can't smell anything, it feels like you're always smelling something cold. So you get a cold feeling in your nose, but you're not smelling anything. You feel wind, but there's no smell. It's a weird sense. So I'm feeling that. Oh, I have a cramp. Hold on. I'm feeling that, and I'm like, hold up. So my mind starts playing back the week. Not feeling well. Body aches here and there. Didn't have a fever. Just, nose running. And I'm sitting there like, shit. So I take some candles. Can't smell the candles. Teresa, again, she went through all this. She lost taste. She lost smell. She was like, here's the best here's the best way you're going to know if you have it or not. She took the pickle jar out. She was like, if you can't smell pickles, you definitely have COVID. I was like, the fuck does that mean? She goes, because pickles you can smell through anything.
Yeah.
There's pickle juice, it's a very strong smell. Took the pickle thing out. Nothing.
You got Rona.
I went, fuck. I got the big Rona.
You got the big.
So Monday,
big
I have to go to work, but I'm like, let me go test just in case. So got up at 6:45 in the morning, stood online with the rest, a bunch of jerk-offs in line, and test came out positive. Damn. I go into quarantine.
Damn.
So now, at that point, Uncle Keith and Dad were in the car with me, but I had a mask on. I had a mask on throughout this whole time. Especially with Teresa, all of us are wearing masks in the house. This is in the house now. And at that point, you guys weren't be able to come over.
Yeah.
To do any, we were doing remote recordings.
I was grounded.
We
were all grounded.
Go all the way back. I don't know, Acito, if you listened to earlier episodes around that time, we were doing remote.
I think I have heard 1 or 2 episodes. Like I was just going down the list.
So that Monday comes in, bro. I'm in quarantine. I go to my room, and I'll be honest. Again, I still felt myself like that. And towards that night, though, I started feeling like something was in the back of my eyes, popping my eyes out. Like there was a pressure building up behind my eyes, and everything was fine. You know,
that shit don't sound fine.
Monday, but everything else was fine. Like I did not have.
But bro, this nigga said, "Yo, I felt
It's you ever have a migraine behind your eyes?
No, definitely. I know that.
Okay,
exactly.
yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
I know I'm getting a migraine because my eyes always feel pressure behind it.
Like they feel like a throbbing, right? Or
Yeah,
something?
a throbbing, and there's like it feels like something's behind your eyes, just like a pressure building up, trying to push your eyes out.
Yeah, okay, now I know what you're talking about. Yes,
especially for me, it goes like from here all the way around here, like,
and you have it right in the forehead, right in the That's exactly the type of pressure I was feeling.
Okay, so that's a migraine.
So I was sitting there like, okay, I'm just gonna lay down, watch TV. That's all I did, and so Monday, Tuesday, again, everything was fine. Bubba and Keith were, again, this is their second week now of quarantine. Mom and Pop are upstairs. Didn't have, at least to that point, we didn't know if they went downstairs or not. That Wednesday morning comes. The 25th, the day before Thanksgiving. And that's when all hell broke loose in our family.
It's a fucking understatement.
Yeah. I remember that morning because I got a phone call early in the morning from Dad. And he did it every morning since I tested positive, just to wake me up, make sure, because a lot of times, I don't know if you guys heard it in the news, a lot of times back, even today and somewhat, with people with corona, they're not waking up, they die in their sleep.
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
Yeah. There was a lot of cases like that, so my parents are both extremely worried about that. And so that morning, my father wakes me up. I'm like, I'm fine, Dad. I'm going back to sleep. Now, he did that for both me and Bubba and Keith. I go back to sleep. Next thing I know, there's a pounding on my door. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I wake up and I run to the door because not a lot of people pound, and I hear crying behind the door. I'm like, okay, what the fuck happened? Teresa is behind the door, crying hysterically, and she tells me, Uncle Keith is gone. Now, me knowing my crazy-ass uncle, I'm like, where the fuck did he go? You know,
You think like he physically took off?
Yeah, like he physically took off. I'm like, what do you mean Uncle Keith is gone? Like, did he take Uncle's car and just leave? They get into a fight or some stupid shit like that? And she goes, no, Uncle Keith has passed away. Uncle Keith is dead. I went, what the fuck are you talking about? And I look upstairs, and Mom's at the top of the stairs, and she's crying. And I'm like, what? Now, again, I had to put on my mask, and I had to get dressed, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what do you mean Uncle Keith is gone? And Mom's like, Joey, I don't know what's going on right now. Your father's next door. He's trying to revive your uncle. And I'm like, what happened? She goes, just come upstairs, please. I'm like, Mom, I can't. I still have this. I know I'm in my second week, but I just tested positive 2 days ago. Like, I still have this disease. I'm not going to get anybody else. She was like, I don't give a shit about any of that. Come upstairs. So I go upstairs, I sit down, and I start to cry. And I again, it's just hectic, and no one knows what's happening. And then Dad comes upstairs, and he falls to the ground. He goes, Keith is gone. And I'm like, I don't know how to feel. I lost it.
Like you felt kind of felt
I felt numb. I felt completely numb.
Like shocked or in disbelief.
And the pain in my head went away. Everything that I felt about COVID went away within my own body. And I don't know. And it, you know, I don't know. I know, Josh, you were there. I don't know how you got the call or who called you.
Sorry. Okay, so to fill in and try to cover you for a minute, I was actually, this was already a little late in the morning. I would start work at 9. I got to work. I started working. I was literally starting an order that I had to ship out. I think I only grabbed like a box or two. I barely did anything, to be honest. I can't remember what exactly I was doing, but I remember I got the phone call from Tony. He's Tony. Before he even answered the call, I was like, what the fuck, dickbag? You know I'm working, because, you know, no one calls me that early in the morning. You know, I figured he might have found something funny to show me or something like that. But, you know, without even hearing him first, you know, I said something stupid. You know, what the hell you doing? Call me. I'm at work, fucker. Whatever. And all I hear on the other side of the phone is crying. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on? And he says, Uncle Keith passed away. And he's crying hysterically. He said he's driving. He's trying to get there. And I guess I had a delay in my brain and my body and my fucking heart, because I was like, what the fuck do you mean? What happened? I'm like, holy shit. They're like, Tony, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm trying to get there. I was like, okay. Like, I was stuttering myself. I didn't know what to say, what to think, or whatever the case was. And I'm like, all right, if you need me, like, call me back. He's like, yeah, I'm just trying to get there right now, whatever, yada, yada, yada. So, you know, we hang up. I'm like, yo, well, before we hang up, I'm like, yo, I love you, Tony, all right? If you need me, call me, text me back, or whatever the case is. So I go to turn around, and I stopped for a second, and then I walked towards the office area, because I have a friend that I work with, and I went to go tell her what happened. And as I'm explaining it, I slowly start to cry a little bit. Like, it wasn't hard full on, but I start to cry a little bit. And I told her, like, I don't know what to do right now. And she's like, what do you need, or whatever. And, like, I remember, I think I ignored her and just walked back to my department. And then I jumped on the forklift, and I started trying to grab the order. And it slowly came, I slowly realized, because now we're approaching 10 o'clock. And that's when my other coworkers come in. I slowly, like, realized that I'm being kind of reckless on the forklift. Like, I'm going back and forth, and I'm fighting myself mentally and, like, emotionally. Like, I'm trying to get the job done, and I think I grabbed all the right parts. I really hope I did. My coworkers, you know, hopefully double-checked the order and stuff like that. And my friend came out. She says, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not okay. I'm not okay at all. And she's like, okay, well, you need to slow down. She saw me as I was on the forklift. She's like, you need to calm down. I'm like, no, I'm not going to fucking calm down. I can't be here right now. She's like, all right, well, you can't be driving, you know, unsafely. I'm like, I'm not. That's why I'm stopping. I'm done with this fucking order, and I'm leaving. So I went into my boss's office. I told him what happened. I'm like, yo, I'm bye. I'll see you. I clocked out, and I think I must have got here to the house in like 10 minutes. Now, mind you, I work in Wayne. And you guys live in Patterson, in the West Broadway, you know, all the way down there. So it's like, I flew here, and I don't even remember. I don't remember that drive. I'll be honest. I really don't. I don't know how fast I was going. I don't know which way I went. All I remember is leaving the fucking job and getting here. I walked immediately through this fence. I saw Tony, and I just hugged him. I saw who was here. I don't know if you remember. Was it Robert?
Yeah, Robert.
Robert was there. Dad was right behind him. They were talking. Bubba was sitting down, and I cried and held Tony for like 5 minutes. We just sat there. He said, "Thank you for coming," and I just sat there. I had to be there with you guys. You know, like, yeah. I think that's when I already knew before that you guys were my family, but after he passed and I got that news, I think that like completely solidified. I guess like it's like it's concrete for me that you guys are my family. I've been calling you guys my brothers for years, but I think with that and feeling how I feel and knowing how you guys felt, it was, I guess, that final little piece that clicked, I guess, or something like that. I don't know what it is, and oh god, I sat there. I said hi to everybody, and you guys still have it now, the little deck that's set up by the pool. I sat at the top step, and I watched them take his body out and put it in the hearse or whatever car that was at the time, and put him, take him away. And then I remember going upstairs. Everybody was already upstairs. I think I must have held Teresa for like 10 minutes. Dad was going back and forth, fighting with himself. You guys were quiet, crying, and just...
Yeah.
I don't even know what else to say.
Yeah, it's... At least at that point, I know before they came and took the body out, his body, I went outside because I couldn't stay upstairs. I knew I still had this in me. And again, now getting back to the point you said before, Cito, about the false negatives or the false positive tests, Uncle Keith tested negative that Tuesday. That Tuesday before me. That Wednesday, the day he died, his PCR came back positive. And I remember Amanda telling us that. And we all looked at each other. It was like, it's too late now. But I remember going outside. And this was before you got here, Josh. And we sat there, and I looked at Dad, and I couldn't do anything for anybody.
Gary, I'll say this right now for the record. It fucking killed me that I couldn't fucking hug you.
It killed me I couldn't hug anybody.
I know.
I remember seeing you on the deck, and I looked at you. I'm like, I love you, big brother. And then I know Jordan was there. I blew him a kiss. I was like, I love you, I love you. And I basically, before anybody else got there, I looked at the window, and I was crying hysterically. And I'm like, we still have stuff to finish, you fucker. Why did you leave me? At that point, in his own words, the man turned around. He was the portion generating, the revenue portion generating area of Green Hour Media. And I'm like, you're the biggest thing we got right now, and you're checking out on me, you motherfucker. And I turned around and I was like, you can't do this. But that just shows and Uncle Bubba, he was out of it. He still had it, and he was out of it. He was sitting on the chair. There's nothing he can do, and Uncle Keith is gone. And then we're sitting there all like, okay, what do we do now? And then 2 weeks later, 2 days later, Pop goes to the hospital.
A little while after, Mama follows.
Yeah, well, first Pop passed away. 2 weeks later to the date, after Uncle Keith, Pop died. And we're thinking to this day that might have not had anything to do with COVID. Yes, he had COVID, but they said he was getting better from it because they were giving whatever the medication at that point was. It was before vaccines, but they were giving him that, and he was getting better from it. He had a very bad heart. So Pop passed away, and there was a point in between Pop going to the hospital the first time and him passing away that he did come home overnight at one point. And we think that little interaction in which we told Mama not to go in that room, she went in there to help him get on the bed. they're old couple, and Mama, as being the person that she was not going to let Pop struggle getting onto the bed. And unfortunately, Cito, I don't think you met them. Eric, you know. Josh, you know how Mom and Papa were. They would do anything for each other, regardless of how much they fucking fought each other. So that little nugget of time might have caused Mama to contract the COVID, and she just got worse from there. So Pop died 2 weeks after Uncle Keith, and then while sitting in the ruins of what the house used to be, her life used to be, Mama was upstairs alone. For most of she didn't move. She didn't do anything. After Pop died, my grandmother became a shell of herself, and I think she was already on that way after Uncle Keith because that was her second child lost. She lost 2 children. One 17 days old back in 1958, and now this one. So, with losing Pop, Mama, again, with contracting COVID too, she just got worse and worse every day. And we didn't know that she had COVID. We thought she was fine because she literally did everything right. She wore masks, she stayed away from Pop. But that little nugget of time, maybe, again, it's just a theory. We're sitting there saying, okay, that's when she caught it. And then Mom is the prime example of what COVID can do to somebody because it completely deteriorated her mind. The last time I saw my grandmother was about 2 or 3 days before she died. And the nurse FaceTimed us so we can see her. She didn't talk. She barely talked. She looked like she was spacing out. She lost weight. She didn't look like my grandmother. And I believe her last words to us were in a whisper, "Where's my Mary?" Talking about Mom. She wanted to see Mom. And my father on the sideline was like, "Hello, I'm your son. You know, I'm still your son here."
Chopped liver right next to you.
And then Mom got on the phone and she was like, "There's my Mary." And then we had to hang up because the nurse, I believe, was changing shifts. But then February 14th, about a month later after she went to the hospital, she passed away on February 14th. And to your point, and I know this is a little long, and I apologize for this, people, but this is getting to the point where
this is the personal part of the COVID-19. Like despite not to cut you off, Joe, I know this. It's all we have our conspiracies and everything of what we deal with, but this was the actual real life of how this actually affected us personally,
and how the weirdness and randomness of COVID has happened because you had me who had no effects with it.
Well, we could break it down because
Josh, you were around, and
I was literally in a house full of people
with COVID
who had it, tested, recovered. You currently had it when that happened.
You were around Bubba outside.
I was around Bubba outside. I was literally in a house full of people who
was I around,
had it.
Was I around that?
No, you did not come that day.
Yeah, no, you.
No, I know that you. I know that you texted me, but I don't think I was I don't think I was around for any of it.
Yeah. So the point being is, I'll be the testament right here in front of everybody, in front of you guys, in front of our audience and all the people who listen. This thing is completely random. You have no idea how it works, even with the scientists telling you if they know how it works. Does not matter. I was in a room, 12 by 16 probably. I'm being probably underestimating it, but a living room full of people. One person, actually 3 or 4 people who didn't have it at all, which was, I believe, Tony, I believe Isaiah, myself at the time. I think Dad didn't have it at the time.
Yeah, and the randomness of that. In between,
all in a room, people who did have it, didn't have it. I came completely unscathed. Even to this day, I still get tested. I have not had it. I am vaccinated at the point. But, I mean, that should tell you, like, I was in a room full of people who had it. Like,
yeah, between Mama and Papa passing away, Mom and Dad did contract it. They didn't know where they contracted it from because I was not around them.
Yeah, at that point, yeah.
Teresa already had it, so she couldn't get it. Anthony and Amanda did not have corona. I don't think Amanda caught it. So I think Anthony and Amanda are the only two that came unscathed as far as corona. So those two didn't catch it because they were basically, Amanda was downstairs the whole time and Anthony was basically in hotels for about 2 months. Yeah. And I already had it and I couldn't give it to them, so they caught it somehow. And the theory is, again, there was one night where Mom was home alone and she called up in a paranoid state, so my father went over it out, no masks. I believe it was that, or I believe it was the same night that Pop fell off the bed and Mama needed help getting him off the bed. Dad went over there because we all know how my father is. My father helps anyone.
Yeah.
Especially his parents. And went over there, again, quick second. My father caught it, gave it to my mother. Again, that's a theory. We don't know if that's true or not. And then they had it. Again, they were basically saying the same thing that I had. You know, pain. They were both extremely tired. Like, they slept all the time. And I'll be honest, from Thanksgiving to Valentine's Day of last year into this year, Christmas alone, again, I'm going to make this short for you guys because I know we've been here for a while. Christmas alone was probably the loneliest Christmas I'll ever experience in my life. I was okay. I was working. I was over. Mom and Dad were sick, so I couldn't go by them. Anthony, Amanda, Teresa, all in hotel rooms. They spent Christmas Day in a hotel. I stayed behind, even though my parents said, go with your siblings. I'm like, no, someone needs to make sure you guys are safe. I stayed behind. I had Christmas dinner on the table by myself. Mom and Dad were in the living room.
I couldn't even see you guys.
Yeah, no one
was allowed over.
Yeah, and what was it? Anthony and Sarah were still
at
quarantining.
The hotel. Yeah,
you guys were quarantining. Yeah, I couldn't even come over to see you guys.
So it was probably the loneliest time I'll ever experience in my life, and that's why I think this year I've had a different look about how my time is spent, because I will never feel as lonely or as on an island as I did that Christmas. And the randomness of COVID is why we sit here and speculate of how Josh can be in a room full of people with COVID, not catch it.
It's practically the same story on my end. My family, my father and my sister got COVID. Now, before anybody even found out, we were all interacting with each other. No masks, nothing. Just, a lo loco. Fuck it. And my dad catches it first. Then he goes with the mask, quarantine, everything. My mother doesn't get it. And she was sleeping next to him before he even found it, before he even had it. My sister caught it. And I didn't catch it. So it's weird as fuck. It's weird as fuck how we were all interacting with each other, and out of the 4, only 2 of us got it. So it's further to add like how random this shit is.
And to be honest, and we're gonna wrap this episode up real quick. To me, there's too much. What's the word I'm trying to say? There's too many, what we were saying before, Cito, of how the numbers don't seem to add up, don't seem to match up as much.
Yeah.
And how, and as Dad said, how you could have scientists here say one thing about it and another scientist here. And granted, that goes with any type of disease, because you don't know how a disease can evolve or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But to me, my problem with all of it, and I don't even think there's an actual question of whether there's a conspiracy theory of what you believe with coronavirus or whatnot.
I think it came from a lab.
Thank you, Eric.
We have his answer.
For me, my problem with the whole thing is it's not with the virus itself. It's the coverage and the coverage and how people handle the virus. That's my biggest gripe with all of it.
Yeah.
And I think to some point, I understand you really don't see it as much as I do, or see it in the way that I do, and I respect that, to where it's not as much as a scare tactic. But I do feel like there was a lot of scare tactics held with coronavirus until this day, which we'll talk about in the next episode with these new variants here. There's a lot of scare tactics in which they hold over people.
Oh, I can't wait to read that article next week.
And that's one of my biggest problems that I have with that. So I think that would be at least what I have to say with this episode. Josh, do you have anything to say?
For me, it's... I think it's more not so much of what to say. It's more of just give us the fucking truth. Please. Is it really that hard? Give us the fucking truth. Between China, other areas, wherever it came from, or however it was, I mean,
that's from 2015.
There's so many losses
Read that.
because of this, and they affect us all every day. I'll be honest, I won't give specifics or names, and fortunately, I don't think I've said the name of my job on the podcast, but at my job, we just learned the other day another guy just lost his life. And allegedly it's due to COVID.
He was rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. He was there one day, and then he was out for a couple of days. People were wondering where he was, and then we just got the news randomly one morning, which I believe was just the other day. So it's like, come on, people. We can do better. We can ask questions. We need the truth. What is it? What's going on? Why are they doing this? Stuff like that. That just give us the fucking truth.
All right, Eric, do you have anything more? I know you're excited for next week.
The only thing that I can say, that's it.
Thank you.
Moving on.
Sita?
I guess opposed to Josh, I don't want to know the truth at this point, because I'm not saying, I know your word this, but by this time, the truth doesn't even matter if we get it.
Oh, it does.
It really doesn't, because the lives that were lost, they won't come back. Period. Like the lives, like the time that everyone's been affected, everyone's health just been declined. Period. Won't come back. Like Joey, I completely agree with you. Like the media, like stuff needs to be covered better. Like, we have our different opinion about, you think it's a kind of scare tactic. I see it as, I guess I'm taking it the more optimistic way.
It was a human mistake.
It could always be a human mistake. Like, again, we're all humans. Things happen. We're not perfect. You might, like, the variants, like, I can understand. It's horrifying coming out, and that's next week's episode. But period, like, do I want to know the truth? If it was made in the lab, if it wasn't, knowing how anything could go, from the conspiracy that we talked about, came from a bat, came from a lab, it all could make sense in some way. Animals develop diseases; they can transfer them easily. Labs, you can modify, contain diseases. It's hard for everyone.
This too much.
It's really is too much for everyone. And some people's lives have been affected more. Joey, you are the perfect example compared to me and you. I really had no one to lose. I knew people who lost family, but I wasn't on that receiving end. But you, on the other hand, you've been through hell in 3 months.
Out of that year.
What? 2 to 3 months, whatever.
Yeah.
You get the point. You still been through all of that, and it's just, oh God.
Thank you, Sita. Well, I think at that, not to bring you guys down, whoever's listening, but COVID.
It's to the point. People need to know.
COVID has affected everyone.
Yeah, for the people for the people that don't believe or do believe, and we told you the story to prove a point of how random it could be, and to actually question whether or not what's real, what's not real.
And
how can people get it? How people cannot get it? How, if we're all healthy, how can half of us get it and get affected?
Mm-hmm.
So,
like how Pop says, don't believe anything that we're telling you right now.
Go research for it.
Do the research yourself.
Yep.
If you really want to.
Well, believe our story because it happened.
Well, you believe his story. That happened. That really happened.
I could show you obituaries if everybody wants to sit there and do that.
Rest in peace to everybody.
Yes, rest in peace
to all
of them. But I think we're gonna end this episode here because we're a little bit long. It's a big topic to handle, and that's why we split up the vaccines and origins, and basically you're getting right in the middle, right where
this was gonna be a 4-hour episode.
Right in the middle is where we're leaving it off of, and that's basically what happened to my family. Right in the middle between where we are now and the start of COVID. If that's strangely weird enough to say.
No, you're right.
Compared to what happened now and the start of COVID, it's 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years tomorrow. To where the first patients, December 12th, 2019.
Holy fuck. Yo, it really has been 2 years.
And what happened with my family, smack dab in the center. We are the meat to the sandwich.
Yeah. Those events happened 2019.
We are the patty.
Yep.
Everything happened in 2020, and now we're 2021.
So that's where we'll end it tonight. And we'll catch you guys next time. Everybody say goodbye. Thank you, Cito, for being on again. Hopefully we catch you back here next week. We definitely want to have your part to the vaccine theories.
Ooh, he gonna love that one.
I know, Wes, you're gonna be here.
Oh, man.
All right, good night, everybody.
Oyatsumi minatsai.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Konnichiwa, bitches. It's Ryu West speaking. If you want to find out more about the Is This Real podcast, follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/isthisrealpc, or on Twitter at isthisrealpc, or on Instagram at isthisrealpodcast, all one word.